Welcome to lesson number 2, module 2, and we are going straight into the Stata interface. We need to talk about it. So there are three basic interfaces that I need to share with you today. Now there are more, but for a beginner level, I think we should just focus on these three. They greatly help us understand generally how the work flows within Stata. So we have the main window, we have the data editor, and we have the do file editor. Let me just share with you what the main window looks like. And I'm sure you must have seen this if you have installed Stata on your laptop. Now, it may not be exactly like this for some people who have customized the background, but basically, if you install for the very first time, you get to see those 6 sections. And one of them is the menu, currently the history, then the results window, the command window where you type all the commands, and then we have the variables window and the properties window. So let's just take them one by one. So let's take the menu. That's where you have all the words. And if you remember, I said commands are initiated through these menus. Most of the commands you use are initiated here. Okay. Yeah, and then we have the toolbars too, who help us with the various interface. You can save, you can open a file, you can edit, put the file in edit mode or browse mode. We're going to talk about that shortly too. So basically, toolbars and menu. We have the history window. This is a very interesting place because this area tells us all the interactions, like a store of every step you've taken, every action basically you've taken within Stata. They are stored here. Currently, there are no items to show, but as we begin to work with Stata in the main practical session, we're going to show that too. Okay, so this is the results window as you begin to write programs and you get to see output here. And so a lot of stuff comes up here, but it's just empty right now, but that's how it works. And that is the command window. This is where you type in the commands syntax for whatever you want to do. We have the variables windows. All the variables, they are listed here and you get to see them all listed here and how they work. Let's move on to the properties window. So that shows us the properties of the data that we are currently looking at. So at the variable level and at the data level. So that's how the main window basically looks like. These are the major sections. So you can rewind, you can pause, and just take a look at it again. Now let's move to the data editor. So we're done with the main window. Let's move on to data editor. Now to activate that in the main window, you will just press Ctrl 8, or you type in the command window, which I just showed you now. Browse, as browse is BR, is the abbreviation. I mentioned that for browse, or edit. You type edit, edit edit in the command window. It will activate the data editor. Now the data editor looks like a spreadsheet. It has rows in numbers, but the columns are the names of the variables. So this is what it looks like. And currently you can see, if you look closely, that the make editor, you see there's make has been selected. So there's a data set there called make. So it's all there. You can find as much details as you will require in that variable window. And if you look closely even at the property window, which is somewhere around here, you will see the name of the variable selected, which was make. You can see make was selected. The label is make and model. The type of the variable, the format, it's a string variable, and that's what you find. I think it's not exactly here. Yeah, it's not here. So you have to scroll in this particular picture. There are some variables on this side you can't see. Okay, so that's it basically the number of variables in data sets, number of observations. So there are 12 variables, observation 74. So it gives us quite a number of details that are very useful for understanding what our data set is talking about. So let's take a closer look at some of the areas again. So we have the menu, just like the main window, we have the menu and the toolbars. We also have a section that highlights the selected variable and the row. So this is saying the weight column has been selected or variable and on row 1. That's why you see it in parentheses. And then the other part tells you the value. So let's look at everything together. So you see weight is being selected here. You can see being selected here. And the value of that weight is written here. That's what you find here now. You find it here. And then the weight here, but this is the variable here, so that's exactly how it works. You can see that here too. This is the value here, and it is displayed here. All the values you select, and this refers to the first row 1. This is row 1, and that's why you find it in square brackets or parentheses. That's row 1, and this refers to weight here, which is the weight here. So we are saying row 1, where row 1 intersects with the weight. Basically, that's what we're saying. Okay, so let's move on. You can see it's part of a larger database. So that's how it works. Basically, this is the spreadsheet side. I had explained that. And you can see clearly that we have the headers here, the names of the variables. Those are the heads of the names of the columns, and down here we have the row numbers. So basically that's how it works. Let's move on to the next section, which is the variables section, just close by, similar to what we had in Windows. List all the variables within the data set that is in memory, and then gives us their label. So this variable name is called price. The label is price. This variable label is mileage, and then gives us a fuller name. That's what the label does. So we have all that here too. So let's move on to properties. So the properties of this variable, of this data set. The variable that is currently selected is make. I shared that before. The label is there. It's quite similar to what was just above it. And then the variable, the name of the data and the label. This is 1978 automobile data. So you get a lot of information about your data set from the editor, just like you would for the main window. Okay, so I guess that's basically how it looks like, everything. One more thing. Below, you have some information at the lower right corner. You have information about the number of variables, the order of the data set, the number of observations or entities. This has 74 cars. This was data about cars. So it tells you if the filter is off. We're in the browse mode. There's edit and browse. We're in the browse mode, and then the caps lock is not on, but the number lock is on. So these are kind of information you find right in the data editor. So let's move on to the third and final one. So this is the do file editor, and it looks like this. So you depress Ctrl 9 to activate it in the main window. You have to be in the main window, and you depress Ctrl 9, or you type do edit in the command window. I'd already showed you that. You can rewind back and check it for yourself. So it looks like a plain canvas, and this is where we do a lot of magic. We're going to talk about that in a couple of lessons away. So it also has its own menu. So all these three interfaces have their menu and their toolbars. You would pay attention to that in detail. And then we also have the programming area, where you actually write programs and codes. I'm going to talk about the do files and in what way they're a bit different from the command window too, but they work together in sync. And then we have details about that. Now, currently the cursor is on line 1. If you go and check again, you would see that this was on line 1. So it's already highlighted there. So line 1, column 1, that's where the cursor is. So you know where the cursor is at any point in time. You know whether the caps lock is open and the number lock, and you have the ability to overwrite. It's an overwrite mode, so that anything you just click on, you can overwrite. Okay, so that's how it looks like basically. Nothing really different. That's what we find for the do file editor. Those are all the details we have for those 3 places. So we are done. Just to recap quickly, the main window, the data editor window that I said looks like a spreadsheet, and now the do file editor that looks like, what's the word, a canvas where you write do files. So I hope this has been useful. I hope to see you in the next lesson. Thank you. So please do not forget to like, subscribe, share, ask questions. I would try to ensure that I can collate all your questions, respond. If there's a video, if there's something that you don't understand and you want us to do a video on it, there are quite a number of requests we receive, but we'll be happy to do that for you. Let us know in the comments what other videos, what other questions you have. But please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you can receive a lot. I told you we're doing quite a number of master classes, some on date and time, some on strings, some on logic, some on quite a number of them that we'll be doing on this channel. So please subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Thank you so much. See you in the next lesson. So hi there. Let's look at the live demonstration of that of the interface. So basically, I'm just going to type something in the command window. So I'm going to start with the command window. We had highlighted that before. So all this section here is the command window. So I'm going to type sys use and then auto comma clear. It's just to load data in. We talked about input. So there is a way of loading data in. We're going to look at that even in the next lesson in detail. Just these 3 words, sys use clear, just to get an overview of how everything works. So when I press enter, so it loads. Before now, if you can rewind your video a bit, before now there was nothing displayed here, but immediately I loaded the video, all the variables in data set load here. So the variable section loads the data set called auto. Another thing you observe is there's a 1 here and there's something written here. So I talked about the history window. So everything you do here is listed by your left-hand side of your screen. Of course, you can see the file, the edit, the data. As I scroll down, you see a lot of commands coming from here, and these are the windows. Enables different windows, which I will not deal with for now. So quite a number of things you can do here, but this is not the time. We're just looking at the interface. And the same thing with the toolbars. When you put your hands over and hover around it, you just get some information. Variables manager, data editor browse, and data editor for editing. So it also means I can activate that here. I forgot to tell you that from the toolbar you can. We said we could do Control 8, which will activate it, or we type browse in the command window. So toolbars too can do that. So let's type browse, and browse basically helps us to see the data that was loaded in a spreadsheet format. So when I press enter, this screen now comes out. Now, there are 2 screens up. Let me just minimize it a bit. This was the main window behind, which we were using just some few minutes ago. I think I should split my screen into two. So you get to see just a bit of it. So we were here, but immediately we press browse. Now you also observe in the history, there was one we opened, two we were browsing. So as you keep on activating commands, giving instructions, history by your left hand side keeps on populating here. So sometimes you can get up to 77, 87 lines, 100 lines, probably 1,000 lines because you keep working. So it keeps a record for the current session. I must say. So let's just go back to the main window again, just briefly, before we come back to the browse window. So, or the data editor, like we call it. So this has all the information here that we can see. Year ratio, these are all the variables. When I select one variable like we did in the previous video or presentation, you'd find make here and all the attributes of make, the variable make will be listed here. If I click on price, all the information about that variable called price will be listed here. I click on MPG, all the variables and all the associated information about that variable. For example, MPG refers to mileage, is an integer, and then the format is percentage 8G. So all the information is just listed over there. We have length, we have weight, we have trunk, and all that are variables. Now, if you scroll down a bit, you now get the information about the data itself. Now, we said sys use auto clear. So this is the information, the file name, the label, notes, the number of variables in the data set. There are 12 variables in the data set, and there are 74 cars, unit of observation. That's what it's called. So you could wait for that video somewhere where we talk about the unit of observation. And then it's sorted by foreign. So there's a variable called foreign. So if you go back again, now let's use edit, you know. So it asks to request to change. I say yes. So what it does, I can edit now. I've done 3 commands. So in the history, every interaction I have is stored in my history window. So I'm able to see everything. So these are various cars, their makes, the size of their trunk, and their weight, their length, and all the other information that are required for cars. So basically, that's how the main window operates. We've looked at that. Now let's go now to the data editor, which is currently in the edit mode. Now, if you observed, as I move from cell to cell, this place changes as I move from cell to cell. I'd explained that to previously in the presentation. So the entire stuff is here. So it's about cars. This is data about cars, and it's sorted by foreign. So similarly to just like we had in the main window, as we click from variable to variable, the properties show here. So this section is just the same thing we have in the main window, but the only difference basically is that this is like a spreadsheet kind of format. So that's how that works. Let me also go again. We're just doing a brief one. Do edit, I said, will show you, do edit will show you the do file editor. So now we have 3 screens here, 1, 2, and 3. So this portion shows you everything in the editor. I mentioned that. I also mentioned line 1 and column 1. So here I could also type in sys use auto, comma clear. So all this will be explained in more detail. Sorry, this is supposed to be a comma. This is supposed to be comma clear. Sorry, spelling wrong. Clear, and then browse. So every time I add a new instruction or a new, it goes there. So, I had mentioned that you could have abbreviations. Instead of typing browsing full, I type it just like that. So when I run, that's executing the do file here. So I get everything showing here. So that's exactly how this works. I hope this is very, very clear. I've just briefly gone through the 3 windows. So you two go on your computer. The word to type here in the command window I have explained. Let me tap it again so you can reuse it. Is sys use auto clear. Now it's now number 6. So every time there was, even if the command is repeated, it still shows on the history portion of the data. So basically, that's what it looks like. This is exactly what it looks like, the interface. And I've dealt with basically these 3, 1, 2, 3. So let me know If you have any questions in the comments, let me know what you have seen. Uh, you can share your thoughts about the three principal views. There are others. I had mentioned that before, but these are just fundamentals that we are sharing because we'll be using that to build. And then when we get to advanced or intermediate, we branch out. We branch out and then go a bit deeper to explore some of these things. So I hope you found this thing useful. I would see you in lesson 3. Thank you.